and this girl had a Chevy Malibu, and we was looking for
That's her
accelerator.
problem right there.
Oh, no question. No, no question. No question. Looking for an accelerator pedal, and this is an American car, but I think they started building them either in Canada or Japan at one point. I don't know. But this model of her car, she's looking for the joint, and nowhere you can find it. It's like not available anywhere. So it's like here's a Chevy Malibu, which is Chevy used to be American made and bred car. You can't find certain parts anymore.
Yeah.
So that's capitalism for you.
Hmm. And then to your point about inflation, I mean, you know, there there aren't a lot of new cars out there because of inflation and the supply chain issues and things like that. So people, because of COVID and the economy and things like that, people are keeping used cars longer,
Hmm.
and so it's just kind of like having that, that supply chain of the next thing that somebody's getting rid of. Even that stuff is not there for people, man. So it's just everything is just through the roof right now, man.
Yeah, the value on used cars is way up. So, and it's
Yeah.
surprising that people are still kind of holding on to them. I guess as the chip shortage hopefully starts to come to an end if they can get workers on the line.
Hmm.
Um, then once the new cars start to hit, the dealerships, people can start to make that money off some of those used vehicles. My one of my SUVs, they're offering 10 grand over um book value right now on a trade-in on Carvana. You
Hmm.
know, the thing is, like, do I want to trade that 10 grand extra and then put it on something new, which they're gonna price up 8 to 10
Right.
anyway? You know what I'm saying? Like, if the price is right and they're not gonna upcharge 10 grand somewhere else, then it's worth it, right? Because I'm getting a new car, I'm getting 10 grand towards it for nothing. You know what I'm saying? New warranty, all of that shit. So it would be worth it, but it's just shit is tough right now, man.
Yeah.
And then gas prices way the fuck up, dog. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy how high gas price. Where gas prices at up there right now, EJ? Y'all
Three
probably like three.
thirties.
Yeah, about to say. I was gonna say 340. We right about 327, 323 on average. Give or take. I was able to use a little 7-Eleven joint for those that are listening. If you sign up for a 7-Eleven membership, you get 11 cents off for your first 7 Phillips. So, I mean, it's a little savings there. Got me down to about 316 yesterday where I was at because it was 327. So, definitely opportunities, man. Opportunity
Yeah.
there. 7-Eleven, that's a plug. I need a little something.
Yeah, but you know what? Like the gas price thing, though, man. If especially if you traveled outside the country, it's a uniquely American problem, right? And like we're just so used to having shit over here, and then we bitch about everything, including gas prices, right? You travel to other countries, and these people are paying, $6, $7,
Yeah,
$8 a liter, not a gallon, a liter of for gas,
right.
and we bitch about, man, gas prices $3. What the fuck, and because other countries governments don't subsidize their oil and gas industry, so people are paying the actual costs, and so the shit could be a lot worse here in our country. But it goes to one of those things where I talk about all the time on this podcast, in our chat, etc., about people not really understanding like how things in the country, in their city, in their state, etc., are working. And so they see this one thing and it's like, oh man, what the fuck, the government's fucking us over. And it's like, I mean, if it wasn't for the government, you'd be paying like $10 a gallon for gas. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, on the flip side, though, because the American society is the way it is, because of our capitalistic government, we are in such a need or a thought that we need to be moving around and doing so much. Whereas, depending on even in Caribbean or even more affluent European countries, their their metro transit, depending on where you at, getting
Hmm.
from France to England in an hour. the tube system in England, you don't see as many cars on the road. You know what I mean?
Right.
In Caribbean,
Right.
people ain't going nowhere like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it is, in my opinion, largely driven by our government, which in our societal sense is like, okay, you got to be hustling, bustling to make some money. Like we
Hmm.
that type of country. We can't sit still and be like, nah, I'm cool just doing this. We got to be working hard as hell all the time. You know, look at all the other European countries that have mental health days, and just
Hmm.
nobody does this on this day. The whole country is watching soccer at 12 on Friday and drunk. So it's like it is I'm not saying it's the system of the government and how it's supposed to operate, but it's the culture of this nation and the capitalistic arm of this nation. Like, that's what it is.
No, no, no. You're absolutely right. That is what it is. That's not. You don't have to not say it. That's what it is. Is that we have a society where we allow our politics to be ran by money, right, by corporate interests, and so if you go look at any decision where you show me a no vote on legislation to add in mass transit where there's train, metro bus system, subways, etc. in a given city, and I can show you lobbying money from the oil industry, you know,
Hmm.
and that's part of the problem is that we allow money to run our politics because if we had a larger mass transit system, and it's shocking that we don't have a mass transit system in a country our size to get its people from point A to point B. In pre-production, me and Steve were talking about flights, and my wife is getting ready to go down to from Orlando to Fort Lauderdale for a funeral this coming week, and she's flying down because if we don't have a mass transit system like in Europe, where she could jump on a bullet train, and be down to Fort Lauderdale from Orlando, in an hour and 15 minutes or something like that on a train that goes 300 miles an hour. So, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's the kind of shit that's ridiculous in this country, that we don't allow our people to be connected in that way, and it's all in order to keep corporate interests booming. And the really sad part is that those same corporate interests who will fight anything to get done like that are the same people who will bitch about government spending when it comes to social welfare and safety net programs, saying, we can't have our taxes too high, can't have regulation, we can't have this, can't have that. And these people are basically lining up to suck at the government's teat when it comes to corporate welfare.
Yeah, I think we just allow everything to be money based around here. I mean, it starts with the government, but it's everything, man, and that's why we just can't have. That's why I think our freaking average lifespan. I mean, even with modern medicine and stuff like that, doesn't seem to be getting much longer because people are so stressed out, man, stressed out and just out there running, trying to make life or just trying to live life. And it requires so much fucking money, man.
Hmm.
Like you can't spend your day chilling on the beach. You can't spend your day, just relaxing and drinking regularly because you might miss that, whatever that opportunity is, right? I mean, you got the
Right.
people like us that we work, your standard, whatever it looks like, right? 9 to 5, 8 to 5, whatever that is. Um, and that's just the structure that we're in, right? And that still takes, right, when you add commute and shit, for you're remote, so that's a slight bonus. But if you weren't, you would be in the same boat as EJ and I, where you're talking about 8 to 9 hours spent out of the house per day, add another hour to two in commute day, each day. Like it's crazy, man. When do people have time for their families?
Right, but even like with that, to kind of connect it on a more personal thing, like even for you, Steve, right? Like you've been talking for years about Ocala, right? And so let's say we had a mass transit system here in Central Florida and around the country for that matter, but in Central Florida specifically, and you say, you know what, I'm gonna move to Ocala. I saw a property out there, has a great price, great schools, on and on and on, right? Get out of the city, live in the suburbs, that kind of thing like that. And then you could literally wake up ride your bike. You've been trying to do exercise the last couple of years to get in shape and things like that. You can ride your bike to the train station, jump on a high-speed train, be back in Orlando in 30, 45 minutes, go to work, do the same thing in reverse, come home, have your kid grow up in this nice neighborhood. Nicer neighborhoods have higher property taxes. Higher property taxes are what fund schools. More property tax. That's why the nicer neighborhoods have nicer schools, right? Now your kid goes to a high quality school system. We talked a couple weeks ago about how there are literally studies that show your zip code can predict the earnings you're going to have in life. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, just that small little tweak in policy could change your life, could change your kid's life. You know what I mean? And Joe Biden used to say this thing when he was vice president for Obama, when he was saying, you show me your budget, I'll show you what you care about. When people say, "Oh, we care about this, we got to make sure, this, da 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 da," the standard politician shit, right? But we don't fund those things. We give them lip service, but don't fund them.
Before we go any further, we have been remiss to say happy birthday to Big Steve here. Turned the big 4-0.
40-40, baby.
Happy birthday, man.
Thanks, man.
Happy birthday, champ.
My damn shoulder hurt, man. Woke up. Yeah,
Yes,
man. I wish, to your point, Vari, that would be, if they had a high-speed rail that went from here to Ocala, yeah, absolutely, man. Like that would be perfect, because you get for what I'm looking for, you get so much land out there, and like I don't care to be around fucking Carrabba's and fucking Applebee's and shit like that. Right. Don't get me wrong, I'll go there and drink and shit, but it's not on the when I'm house hunting, like, yo, is there a fucking Applebee's close by? Is there a Mexican restaurant in the area? You know what I mean? Like, so if there was a high speed, that's the opportunity, and then you got there's so many opportunities like out in Tampa, right? For people here in Orlando that could go out there because there's different types of jobs and different
like
types
the strippers
and that absolutely. And if strippers took high speed rail, you'd have a lot more people taking the high speed rail. Men would be like,
find it baffling. I gotta go so far to get nudes.
Right. Women would be like, we'd be like, but you have a brand new car, honey. Why you want to take the rail? Well,
and it's baffling because in the Baltimore DC area, they've been talking about this since before O'Malley's term, which was years ago, and then his whole term was the whole, we're gonna build this DC red line, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. Did nothing. Then Hogan comes in, of course, gives the same lip service, and now after his 2 terms, nothing has happened. So now I'm looking at my man Westmore like, what you gonna do, dog? Because it's a 45-minute ride on the train from Baltimore to DC right now. The trains are slow. They sometimes they don't operate, and it's just like, why? You know what I mean? And then when you get to DC, the metro service there is horrible. And it's like the roads and the cars there, DC is like smaller. I would say almost as small as Bridgeport. You know what I mean? And the volume of people there is just crazy. So the traffic is just stupid. So it's a major problem, man. It's a major problem. And like VP said, it isn't. But again, that goes back to the people, the common people, not really understanding their power and their worth.
Right. And then to both of y'all points, y'all have talked about, reasons why, you love AOC or Bernie or Warren and those type of folks, right? And you look here, just like here in Florida, after the 2008 crash, when Obama did his big stimulus, Florida was supposed to get something like $10-20 billion in transportation dollars to build high-speed rail. And they were going to basically build a high-speed line that was going to connect Jacksonville, Daytona, Orlando, Tampa, and Miami, the 5 like major cities here in the state with high-speed rail. And when we talk about high-speed rail, we're talking about like trains that go like 120 miles an hour. We're not talking about like bullet trains. wait, bullet trains in like Japan,
220.
China, Europe, they're going like 200-300 miles an hour,
Yeah.
right? But still, you got to start somewhere, right? And Rick Scott, who was governor at the time, turned that money down, right? And then you fast forward, and then he runs against the Obama administration for re-election when he ran for re-election in 2018. And then Florida starts to build private high-speed rail through this company called Brightline or Bright Star or some shit like that. I can't, correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, on what it's called. And then while they're in the middle of the building process, we find out Rick Scott has money in Brightline. Who saw that coming?
Shocker.
You know what I mean? and so to kind of tie
Bring
it up.
Back.
And that's the point, is that who you put in these positions matter. You know what I mean? Because you have this guy who's telling you like, oh, Obama sucks, and they're trying to do this, trying to do that. The state can handle its own business and that kind of thing like that. And the federal government is literally saying, here, Florida, here's $10 billion to do this. You don't got to give it back or whatever. It's going to help create jobs, et cetera, et cetera.
That would be
and
lit.
They say, no, fuck that. We don't want that.
Could you imagine if all of the trains were connected, all of the winches that fly into Miami? Because I tell you, boy, the whole city of Baltimore goes to Miami every year. It seems like they really set that game up every year.
It's all the hood rats go to Miami. That they think that's the only vacation spot. They start. It's like Miami's, take me back. Let's go to
I've
Mexico.
I've never been.
You've never been to Miami? I mean, now it's kind of I mean, it's still Miami, right? But it's not Miami like it used to be, right, Vari? I mean, I guess in the in the party zones and stuff like that, you still have that, but not like it used to be. Like we used to want to go to Miami regularly. It was dope. The good thing about it is like if you have it, you have the means to stay like right across the street from the beach, on the strip. It's beautiful because you can just come, you can come downstairs, go across the street, chill on a beautiful beach with beautiful people all over the place. There's plenty of like drink spots and stuff like that, frozen spots like Wet Willie's and Fat Tuesdays. You go fill up your big jug of frozen drink, alcohol, bring that across the street, maybe add a little extra liquor to it, you know what I'm saying? And then chill, right? And then you come back across the street, maybe take a shower, come downstairs, walk the strip, hit a restaurant, eat, sit down, relax. You know what I'm saying? People watch. That's the good part there, years ago, of course, 10, 15 years ago about 10, 12 years ago when I first got here, clubs were crazy down there. There was one spot called Carew and Y that was like amazing. But it was pricey. It was fucking expensive, yo. Like, and I was broke back then. I'm still broke, but like I was broke back then, fucking. And so I'm like, let's go. We get in, boom. Oh, it's how much to get in? Oh, 35. All right, well, here's 35. Go to the bar. Yeah, let me get I got the first round, guys. I got it. You know what I'm saying? Boom, do that. Hey, let me get these 4 drinks. Not even anything like crazy. It's not even like like today you would be like, oh, let me get some 1942. That's gonna be pricey. It was like bullshit. Like, hey, let me get a rum and coke. Let me get a rum and coke. I'm gonna take a shot of tequila and this, right? And bitch came back and handed me the receipt, and I looked at them, $85. Y'all charging $20, and this is 10 years ago. You know what I'm saying? 10, 12 years ago. That's not today. So that was the only part about it. So for me, it was really chilling on the beach, but it's still good. You should still go. You should absolutely.
I had that same experience.
To go. I never really had a desire to go.
I had that exact same experience at Carew and Y, Steve. Went there this back when I was in the military, and we knew somebody at the door, so we only paid like $10 to get in. Yeah. And I did the same shit. Like, I got the first round, and I ordered rum and cokes, and the dude came back, and he's like, it's 39. And I was like, I got 3 rum and cokes, and he's like, yeah, it's 39. And I'm like,
that's when you should have been like, ain't no military discount in here. Y'all don't love your country.
So I told my brother that shit. My brother's like, yo, you been in the sticks too long, man. He's like, this shit's different now.
It's crazy.
Like, fuck, man.
I
You
never
know,
really had a desire to go though. Being from New York, same thing with Vegas. Like I was gonna go one of these birthdays. I had it
no,
all
that's
set up.
different.
I just never had a desire to go, and I'm gonna say this. I had it lined up for one birthday, and I literally canceled the day before, and I was just like, "Nah, I don't feel like it," because I
Mm,
did so much partying, like in ridiculous amount of ways. It's just like I don't know that I really want to go out there and take my party there. Like
yeah,
I was like, I'd rather just deal with the animals I know. But going to school in Delaware, no tax and alcohol's tax free, and there's literally nothing to do but drink and fornicate. I was like, nah, I don't think I want to do that.
Yeah, for you, Memorial Day weekend would be
yeah,
where it would be at. I mean, now it's super duper ratchet, and
yeah.
think a lot of piss poor shit happens out there. But like before, you had Memorial Day weekend. Would have
That shit
been
used to be. That shit
that
was. It was something else.
would have been your wheelhouse, EJ.
It was something
Um,
else.
but
Yeah, it still is.
No, I mean, but it's a lot different. Like Steve says, it's really ratchet now, man. Like
mhm.
you
That's
know,
what I would go for though.
but nah, like
Yeah.
before, like it was a vibe. You know what I mean? Like it was
Ratchet is a
basically
vibe.
like, well, I guess not.
It ain't my vibe, nigga. It ain't my vibe.
Ratchet is a vibe,
Whatever.
my boy.
Yeah,
I'm trying to
that
go
shit.
out
Yeah,
there. Never mind.
Yeah,
Anyway,
that shit was
we
wild.
should make a little trip to Vegas, man. We should. I liked Vegas when I went to Vegas for my 30th, so 10 years ago. And I went for the Watch the Throne tour.
concert.
Yeah, concert. I stayed in MGM, and it was surprising that, like, you know they seem to be more amped about J music than people on the East Coast when I went to fucking, because I've been to tons and tons of Jay-Z shows, right? New York, here in Florida, Connecticut, Jersey, and it seemed like in Vegas they were amped more than the people here on the East Coast for Jay and Kanye. Like, it was
But you
crazy,
gotta
crazy.
you gotta remember though, Vegas is a city that's kind of like Orlando, where a lot of the people who are there aren't from there.
True,
You
Hmm.
know,
true.
I read an article years ago that said something like 60% of the people who live in Orlando are not even from Florida, let alone Orlando.
Oh yeah, it's probably, dude. You talk to 10 people, I guarantee 8 of them are
New
started somewhere,
Yorkers.
and just 8 random people walking
right.
down the street. They not from here, Chicago,
Hmm.
wherever that is. But I also learned in Vegas that 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 the women, the Mexican women, they got very very beautiful Mexican women out there. Like, we always see, like, Selma Hayek and stuff, but like locally, like here, Florida, New
Where
York,
the
Connecticut, they look like the blockheads from Gumby. You know what I
where
mean?
the
Like, they
fuck
boxed
are
out.
you
They
going
really.
with this?
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. In Vegas, there was some really beautiful women. Beautiful women.
Mm.
Um, but there was a lot to do there too, man. Shows, food. Like, I went to this all you can eat beef ribs. It was like, I don't remember how much it was, but it was decent. It came with 2 sides. It was all you could eat beef, big ass, like, brontosaurus looking fucking Barney Rubble shit. So it was dope, man. We should probably do that. We should
Yeah,
do a little Vegas joint, and
they say it's
you know,
different, man. My
you don't
brother went
even
out
need a
there.
long time. Like, you need 3, maybe 4 days. You know what I'm saying? Like, the
I
time
know
change
people that
might.
go all the time. They go for the day pool party. They do
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
thing, and they're especially now with the Raiders. They're
Oh,
Hmm.
that's the. Ooh, now we
yeah,
talking. Maybe we can hit a Raiders game, man. Go
shit's
out
a
there,
high
hit a
though.
Raiders.
My brother
That's
went
nice.
to a they did like a little 5 day like guys trip out there, him and some of his friends. And he was like, when he checked into the hotel, he's getting out the Uber. He was like, and he noticed like all the people checking in like had like cases of water and like
Mhm.
food
You
and shit
told
like
this
that.
story.
Yeah, yeah. And he was like, what the
Hmm.
fuck? And he was like, there's nothing around here. Like, he was like, he had to go far as fuck to like shop, and like a bottle of water was like $7 and shit. So he was
Mm.
like, I see why motherfuckers was showing up with groceries.
Yeah, so I guess, on the strip they've kind of changed it a little bit now. Like, they have groceries, not so much, but they have like what we did for our room. We went across the street there was Walgreens. It was either
Walmart.
Walgreens or CVS. No, it was a Walgreens or CVS right across the street, and we just loaded up on shit from there, like little junky shit. And then there's so many restaurants and stuff like that that they have to be competitive, similar to Miami, right, Vari? Like if you're on the strip, it's expensive, but if you go off the strip a little bit in Miami, the restaurants have to try and be competitive, so the food isn't super super expensive considering it's Miami. And so Vegas is similar, but on the strip, like they had some decent prices, like when you go into the hotels, because there's so many, and the casinos, because there's so many of them and so many different options for you, you can generally find a pretty good deal on different nights. So but yeah, we should definitely do that, man. Like I said, you don't even need a lot of time. Like you go out there on a Thursday and leave on a Sunday, and you'll have just that's, to me, I think that's just enough time. You get out there, have some drinks, go to a couple shows, gamble a little bit, maybe hit a party or club one night, maybe, burn down a VIP or two, and then hop on the plane and get the fuck up out of there, man. That sounds like a good time, man.
I
We need to
definitely
plan
want to
that.
see I definitely want to do the pool party situations, even though I know it's probably nasty, especially now COVID time. But fuck
I'm
it.
cool with it, because you just if you're gonna do that, right, and you're planning it, you just plan to get a whatchamacallit, a cabana, right? So you're not in Gem Pop. Like if I go to a pool party, I'm not gonna be in Gem Pop, nigga. Like,
Hey,
give me the cabana.
Again, I'm here for the for the gin pop.
I know what you're here. I know what you're there for.
That's where the groups of the Meg the Stallion wannabes is at, pouring half a bottle of liquor down, and I'm just watching like,
yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, man.
Oh my goodness.
Jello pudding.
Jello pudding. Yeah. You're disgusting. What?
What's been going on, man? Like, I've been unplugged from the school shooting, and
I was just about to get into it. I'm glad you brought it up. We were
I've
going
been
to
unplugged.
It's just disgusting, man. Basically, to kind of give you like a more of a TikTok, because like you hear about a school shooting and it's like, oh, another one. Yeah, you feel sad, but like we've almost become desensitized to it in this country, how often it happens. But when you look at the TikTok of this particular school shooting, the shit is infuriating, because on the kid's parents bought him a gun for Christmas gift on November 26th. The gun was purchased, so last week, and
For this Christmas, not even here yet.
right. And so on this past Monday, he was in school and a teacher saw him on his phone, and I guess they looked over his shoulder or something, and he was researching, or not researching, but like looking up like purchasing ammo. And so the teacher reported it to the school administrators, like saying he was doing inappropriate shit on his phone. School calls the parents and let them know, like, hey, this happened, And then the following day, the school sent a email, like as a follow up, to like, hey, like, have you talked to your kid about this kind of thing, like that? The parents didn't respond. Now, according to the prosecutor in the charging documents, since we now know they charged the parents, they said after the school contacted the parents about the ammo thing, the mom texts the boy and text, LOL, I'm not mad at you. You got to just learn to not get caught. So now the next day, the teacher finds a note, a paper on his desk that had drawings of like shootings and blood and stuff like that. And it said, excuse me, on it, it was a drawing that included a handgun and it had the words, quote, "The thoughts won't stop. Help me." It also depicted a bullet with the words "blood everywhere," and above the person that appears to have been shot twice and is bleeding, a laughing emoji. And then it also said, "My life is useless. The world is dead." So the teacher or some school official sees that, they take a picture of it, and then they go to the school administrators again with this, and they told the parents, "You guys got to come in like immediately." They pull him out of class, and by the time he gets there, I guess he knows this is what it's about, so he kind of like scratched out the drawing, but the teacher had taken a picture of it with her cell phone, right? They talk to the parents, and the parents resist pulling him out of school, but they let them know, like under Michigan law, they need to get him counseling within 48 hours of this report now being made, right? The parents don't want to pull him out of school. They send him back to class, and then later that same day, he shoots up the school.
And this is with a handgun, or
Yeah, it was with a 9mm 6 hour.
and how old is this kid?
15.
And in Michigan, I assume you're allowed to purchase a handgun for a kid at 15.
I guess so, apparently.
So I think his parents, and we might want to look this up, but there was someone posted online an image of him saying my new toy, and they're saying,
Yeah.
and it was that gun, and they're saying that that his parents purchased that for him, right, at 15 years old. And I wonder, I'm thinking that's why they're being charged, right?
Yeah, they said they're charging them for negligent manslaughter, because they were saying, you see the ammo thing, and you basically send them a text saying, "LOL, I'm not mad, just don't get caught next time." So you're basically blessing this shit. And then the next day, the school officials call you out to say your kid seems to be in mental distress. You need to get him help. And they say, "Yeah, just leave him at school. Yeah, all right." And not only do they leave him at school, they don't check. They know he has a gun because they bought it, right? It's not like at least with the Rittenhouse situation. And I don't know this to be true. I'm kind of making an inference here, but a friend of his bought that gun for him and was storing it at his own house as a straw purchase, right? So it could be argued that the mom didn't know Rittenhouse had a gun, even though I know she drove him to the thing. But just follow my logic. What I'm saying here.
Yeah, and
In this case,
playing devil's advocate.
the parent, right? In this case, the parents bought the gun.
Right.
And so they show you, here's a note from your kid saying the thoughts won't stop, the world is dead, my life is useless, all these kind of keywords for some kind of mental
I'm
distress,
about to shoot some
suicidal
shit up.
ideation, right? And they say, no, not only leave him at school, we won't even confirm that he doesn't have his gun that we just bought him last week.
I said cynically one day, and I don't remember how long ago it was, but I remember not the embarrassment, but I remember the stigma that my school system, and specifically my high school, used to carry for being one of the few schools to have metal detectors at the door. And it's like we've now come to an age full circle where that shit made more sense than it does than it didn't. You know what I mean? So because I remember, being one of even schools in the worst parts of Brooklyn and other places didn't have metal detectors for whatever reasons. And we did. And I always said that, like, people don't want to come to my school because of that, even though, it was what it was. But I mean, yeah, I mean, shit, now we are in an age where that might make more sense than anything. And I know people used to argue that psychologically it was bad for kids because it kind of creates that it kind of promotes that prison police kind of, I'm used to this kind of thing. But when you think about it, I mean, as a kid today, I mean, as a government official or somebody that works for government, when you're going into a place and it's secure, you kind of feel a little better. In some instances, I mean, it can be a hassle also. But I mean, as a kid going to school today, shit, people might want to start thinking about that, man, because they got to live with this reality anyway.
Right. And I'm gonna say two things to that, EJ. And I know I sound like a broken record. Here comes the hits. You guys probably can play them from memory.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
But I feel like that kind of thing is part of the problem, because in our country we don't solve problems. We try to work around them, right? So instead of saying there's a problem with guns, we say let's put metal detectors at school. After Parkland, I saw a news story from some school they were building in Indiana, where they were building it to be a hard target where they could like lock down coordinate. It was cameras all over the place, and they can see where the shooter is, and then they could like press a button that like locks down this corridor, so the person is only in that section of the school. And then all of the classrooms will have like these automatic locks that were like bulletproof and couldn't be kicked in. and that kind of thing, so that way, if you're in the hallway, you're fucked, but if you're in a classroom, you know, you're good, right? And the person wouldn't be able to leave that corridor where they were at. And then they had hallways that were like rounded, so that way it wasn't like a straight line of sight from one position to the next or whatever, to help people who are running away and that kind of thing like that. And it's like, okay, we're gonna spend millions of dollars making this school a fucking bunker, right? Why don't we just do something about guns? You know, we're gonna put metal detectors. Why not just do something about guns?
But see, the
You know what I
the
mean?
other issue too is, right. There's two sides of that too, getting even further deeper, and I commend you for your point because you were the one that brought it to my attention about the ATF, and furthermore for not just on that sense with the school shootings, but I mean, look at the neighborhoods, and the illegal guns. Like when you're talking about the inner cities, we ain't worried about. We don't have the Kyle Rittenhouses and this kid where we buying these joints at Walmart. The issue for us was, the joints, the SIGs, and these foreign weapons we getting off the street and nobody's doing anything about. So I agree with you in that point, man. And just overall, this country, like I said, 200 years is just 200 years of violence.
Hmm.
200
And
years
then,
of violence and not wanting to do the right thing.
and then the second point that I was gonna make is that, you look at the first question that I had when I saw the story about the drawing when they call the parents, right? And it's
Mhm.
probably the question that you guys had and millions of people in this country when they heard it. Why did the parents get a choice to leave them at school, right? And you know
Right.
why? The same shit you see happening right now with these crazy ass parents in school boards talking about no mask. I don't need the government to raise my child. This kind of shitting on expertise. They said when my kid is having, he's just Johnny's. He didn't eat breakfast this morning. So maybe he's just having a bad day. You shouldn't send him home for that. So the parent got to this kid basically is making threats essentially, and the parents get a choice on whether or not they want to send this kid home. And then he leaves the principal office with the meeting they had and then shoots up the school.
I'd be
It go,
curious. Go ahead, Steve.
I was going to say it goes back to one of the points you made about COVID, Vari, and you talk about the vaccine, right? People have, excuse me, people say that they want, it's their right, it's their body, it's their choice, right? But you're leaving that choice up to this person or these parents to determine the safety of 700, 400, 500 other kids, faculty, everyone else there, because your kid is clearly showing red flags, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's clear red flags here. And I think your biggest point that you've made there is, why do you have a choice of whether or not you're going to come get this motherfucker? Yo, come get this nigga out my class.
Right.
Because you're going to get him out or I'm going to get him out.
I'd be curious to see what the policy is, because that doesn't, to me, mental health wise, it doesn't even really seem logical protocol. You know what I mean? In most instances, and I mean, because he's 15, there might be some gray area, but in some instances, schools should be able to bring in authorities
Mm-hmm.
on a level of heightened sensitivity to say, yo, we have reasons to believe he may harm himself or someone else. So I'm kind of wondering what that school policy is to the letter, and if they had, really involved the mental health department, um, and other things, because there are things, as privileged clinicians, we gotta tell you, like, if you're thinking or talking about hurting yourself and someone else, your ass is grass now. I can call the
Yeah.
police on you. You know what I'm saying? So I wonder, and it'll probably, and it might come out, might not come out, but I wonder where the school, if at all, might have dropped the ball on that.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder that as well, but I just trying to look at it glass half full, because it seems like the school officials did what they were supposed to. They contacted the parents. Hey, you need to get this guy counseling, and the school was pushing for him to go home. And according to the article that I read from AP News, it says that the parents resisted that and was like, "No, we don't want him taken out of school." And so it makes me the way that I read it, it made me feel like the school is saying, "Hey, we really think that you should do this, but it's not like we can make you do it." And the parents were like, "If I can't be made to do it, like Steve was saying earlier with the vaccine, if you're not gonna make me get vaccinated, then I'm not fucking doing it. You can't make me pull my kid out. Okay, then I'm not. He can stay here.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You know."
but again,
But again, I would want to see the actual
on,
letter
on
of the law
on the
to know.
mental, yeah, on the mental health aspect of it, you have an authority to call the authorities aside from this kid. Aside from the parents, you also have a judgment at that point in time to say, okay, these motherfuckers are not fit to handle this. I mean, and granted, in the scope of everything that might have happened, timing wise, may not have made a difference. But let's just say nothing happened that day. You could say this kid is showing an intent and a desire to want to harm others. I'm now calling the authorities because I've now called the parents. They've been negligent. So now I'm calling the local social services agency, child services agency, and saying, this is what's going on. I've alerted the authorities. You need to get your ass down here because this kid might have to be committed, whatever. So I'm not blaming them, because how often do school administrators really have to run through these things, especially in these type of environments? Unfortunately, in our urban settings, our school professionals are more prepared. Why? Because we on average see more shit. A shooting before the kid gets to school, or after school the kid was shot, or what I'm saying. So we
Mhm,
see a lot more stuff, and we're a lot more prepared for that kind of thing. So I just not blaming them, because I'm sure at this juncture what they did should have logically been enough, right,
mhm,
for them parents. But I just wonder in that element, because I tell you, in DC, that shit wouldn't have happened. In Maryland, niggas would have been like, nah, dog. Baltimore City, DC Metro, come get this nigga. I'm calling the child services after. You know what I'm saying? Like, so and it's probably because of that element, where they are, they may not have to deal with that type of stuff. Because, in the cities, man, you might get a kid that on the way to school, somebody got capped. And it's like, you know what I'm saying? So it's just,
I be
it's
telling them,
interesting.
tell teachers as my son goes into a new grade, hey, if you have any red flags with any students here, you call me, including my kid. I'll
yeah.
come get my son. And if I need to
And
get that little motherfucker out, I'm getting him out too.
yeah, and to your point, EJ, and I hear everything that you're saying, but I kind of look at it from this context, right? And like, let's just look here in Florida, and going back to COVID, right? When we talk about masking, right? The school board gets their medical advice from the county health department, which gets their advice from the state health department, which gets their advice from the CDC, right? All medical experts, right? The governor of our great state has said we shouldn't listen to medical experts about whether or not kids should wear masks. It should be up to their parents.
It's kind of not the
In the middle.
same, though.
No, I understand that, but I'm trying to make the point of that. We have politicians who are saying these kind of things should be a parent's choice, right?
Yeah.
Don't worry about what the experts say. It should be the mom who works a double shift at fucking Golden Corral. She knows more than this
Yeah,
doctor,
it's still
you know.
kind of not the same in this instance, though, because mental health reporting and the duty to inform has been something nationally accepted for years. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. I just think somebody in this instance, and we don't know all the details, but in this instance, they may just not have been aware in that active moment of what they, who knows if they even got to the mental health department, who knows if they even have one, that is actively, working. I mean, every school should have one, but I mean, to your point, county by county, I'm sure that might look differently everywhere you go, but
Yeah.
it's, yeah.
And I think it should happen the way that you were describing. And I mean, again, this thing just happened on Tuesday, so
Right.
I'm pretty sure we're gonna get tons more facts to kind of give us
Hmm.
a more of the TikTok, right? But from where it stands right now, that was my first question when they said the parents resisted, so he went back to class, and I'm like, wait, they had a choice? You know what I mean?
Right.
Because that shit don't
Right.
make sense to me.
Right. Yeah,
No.
that was a duty to inform right there, to be like, yo, because man, that's one of the first things you tell your client, like, dog, and again, whoever the teacher saw it, like that shit. Oh man, that shit is crazy. That shit is nuts. I mean, I'm just thinking about it, like just thinking, you know what I mean? Like that's like if a kid came into my office and was like, yeah, I drew this today. I'd be
Right.
like, yo, do you have what is this? Do you have an intent on hurting?
It's amazing how frequently we hear this though, right? We hear
Yeah.
this a lot with these types of situations, that there were red flags reported and there was no action taken on whoever's part, whoever that whoever that falls on, whether it be the staff at the school. You have a duty to keep
Mhm.
not only you but all the other children in that school safe. You have that duty, right? The parents, right? And that's where they're being held accountable, but still it's too late. Lives were lost, right? Children were fucking traumatized. Children are going to be traumatized from this situation forever. There are going to be children in that school that are going to be traumatized forever because someone chose not to act on a drawing of this kid that says, hey, there's blood everywhere. People are going to fucking die. I want to play this quick clip. It's 48 seconds. It's very graphic. So if you do watch this on YouTube, uh, here at the 50-minute mark, this is a clip of the inside of the classroom that was posted a day or two after.
Yeah, he said it's safe to come out. No, we're not willing to take that risk right now. We're not taking that risk right now. Yeah, bro.
He said bro.
He said bro. Red flags.
Go.
Oh. Slow down, you're fine.
I want you to drop backpacks. We're okay. We're okay. Drop your backpacks. Yes.
Now, Steve, let me say something real quick about that clip that you just saw. I actually saw a news report because this clip that you just showed went really viral. That
Mhm.
said that it actually was a cop knocking on the door of when this happened.
Mhm.
But obviously the people inside obviously didn't know, and they didn't want
You
to take
don't
that
know.
risk. Right. So, I think they did everything right. We're not taking that risk. He said, bro, like, nah, that sounds like a kid. Let's get the fuck out of here. I think they were right to do what they did, but I just want to just say, put some context on it to say that I did see a news report saying that it actually was a cop that was knocking on the door.
See,
It
cops
did.
trying to get too urban, fucking it up
Yeah,
for everybody.
it did sound like an adult. It didn't sound like it was a
A
high school kid,
teenager,
but
nah.
even still, right?
Right.
For the kids to feel that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
To feel, oh shit, wait a minute. And they're listening for key phrases, key red
Right.
flags to make that decision, that determination. Kids shouldn't have to deal with that. Kids shouldn't,
Exactly.
that's not something when they go to school that they should have to worry about, you know. And they've done, and it's like we've accepted it over the last 5 to 7 years or even longer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we've done this, for example, in the workplace. There's workplace training um for active shooter. There's active shooter trainings that people have created to roll out in workplaces, to roll out in schools. Why are people going through this? Why are people dealing
Mm-hmm.
with this? Right? And listen, I'm you know me, I'm pro gun, right? I got guns. I'm okay with people having guns and with the intent of protecting themselves and things of that nature. But as this stuff continues to happen, it makes you wonder, like, what needs to happen? Like, do niggas need to be? Do they need to go back to the days where, like, you could only have a musket? Like, if you, maybe they say, hey,
Yeah.
if you're a civilian, you can carry something, but you can't have any more than two shots in it, right? And if you get caught with more than two shots, then it's a felony or whatever that looks like. Like, but there has to be something that comes, that comes of this.
Yeah, and contrary to popular belief, I'm pro gun as well. I'm pro gun with regulation, right?
Right.
Are we doing mental health checks? Are we checking, like, you shouldn't be able to just buy a gun and then never have to do anything again,
Right.
Um you know, are we checking in on these people, yearly, semi-yearly, whatever the case? Do we make them have to get certified training? You know what I mean? Do we do things like magazine capacity, where you only can have a magazine that can hold 10 rounds, so that way if there is a mass shooter event, you know after you fire those 10 shots you have to reload, or like whatever the different things that we could do to try to help. So I'm not saying no guns, but I am against like military style weapons, right? People shouldn't be walking the streets of, you see these clips on social media all the time of people in a Starbucks in Phoenix, Arizona, where they have open carry with a goddamn, AR-15 strapped across their back, getting a cup of coffee. Like what the fuck are we doing here, yo?
Yeah.
That's my problem. And for the people who
Yeah.
are saying we got to have the guns because, if the government gets too tyrannical and all this kind of shit like that, okay, you have guns. You got a couple AR-15s, a shotgun, a 9 millimeter. Even if you got 30 guns, the government has them. They have a standing
They got
army.
more. They got
Right.
They
more.
have tanks. They have jets. They have
They got
fucking
more.
nuclear weapons. What are you gonna do with your AR-15? Like, come on, like let's be
Not
serious here,
only
yo.
that though, but in most of these most recent cases, right? And even with the school shooting specifically, we're talking about youth. So when we're really talking about gun restrictions, what are these laws for the youth? You know what I'm saying? Like what's going on? Like why does an 18-year-old need to be able to get an AR-15? Why does
Mhm.
I don't know. Again, we didn't look this up about the Michigan law, but why are two parents able to buy their kid a handgun? Because regardless of it, being AR or not, if this motherfucker has a handgun, what I mean, the right gun, he gonna take one life is enough.
Right.
You know what I'm
And
saying?
let
So
me correct something you said, EJ. This kid is 15. He's not 18.
no,
He's
I'm I
15.
I know that's what I just said. I said yeah, where it because we don't know the law in Michigan, but
Hmm.
if the law does permit that, why? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And then in the Rittenhouse situation or in other instances, and I'm just saying, why is 18 only enough? You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
we know what we know about brain development, which I don't really always buy into. But again, and we don't know about Michigan, but why, if this is the case, why is that legal in Michigan
Hmm.
or that county so yeah, I agree, man. I think we all are on the same page in that regard. you know
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we'll like Vari said, it's still fairly fresh, and we'll get more information on it. But it shows you the double standards, right? And I get it. It's state laws and things like that. But if it's okay for and people don't frown upon, white parents buying handguns for white kids, but if you find if a 16-year-old kid found with a gun, or even you talked about it last week, Vari, the young lady that fired in the air to fucking protect herself, and this
Hmm.
poor woman is doing a long sentence. I don't want to say a life sentence, but a very long sentence,
Yeah.
which is the equivalent of your life, right? Once you get into
Hmm.
teens and 20s of time in jail, like when you come out, it's hard, man. It's not, you may as well consider that a life sentence.
Yeah.
But it's the double standard in America, man. It's a double
Yeah.
standard in America.
And real quick, Steve, let me just say, real quick, the victims were Tate Meyer, age 16, Hannah St. Juliana, age 14, Madison Baldwin, age 17, and Justin Schilling, age 17. And then you also have four other victims that are still in the hospital that were shot but survived. But the ones that I just named were the four that tragically passed away. So, thoughts to their family and loved ones, man.
and then not and then that's the other crazy part, as a parent, what I'm saying, like that just that how do you come back from that? You know what I mean? Like
You
that
don't.
kid doesn't I mean, Yeah, I'm not gonna say.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
beating
that's.
somebody ass. I'm
I
beating
mean,
somebody
it might be
ass.
more. It might be more than that, bro.
Yeah.
Because I mean, at this point, the parents are in custody now, trying to flee, getting caught. But I mean, that, yeah, and it's just like and then I'm thinking with the kid, like, we're in generational times because I don't recall our age time, all of us 5 years within 40 or 40,
Mhm.
and
Wow, I see what you did there.
um or older than that. Our parents, their parents didn't have to, they didn't deal with this. So where does another kid, like, I don't understand where another kid, and maybe the bullying, I don't know, man. And maybe I think also culturally is a different thing. Because in my day, if you had a bully, I mean, you,
You fight. You
you
fight.
fight, or you stab them, or you know what I mean, something. You know what I mean? But coming to school, and then 9 times out of 10, too, sometimes they just, maybe they shooting these kids at random, and they just, like, I don't get it, and we're not going to, because it's rational thinking that we're operating with. But damn, I mean, that's crazy, man. That's just crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
man.
mean, part of it, in my opinion, is that you look at where we are now as a society, with social media, phones, and things like that. Kids are more isolated than ever, right? So, you're alone. You're alone with your thoughts. You know what I mean? And that could play a role. And I'm not one of these people who are into the whole violent video games. They sell violent video games in other countries. They don't have these same problems like we have. You know what I mean? But I think that social isolation, I think that does play a role.
Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly, these kids are just mentally different. They don't, yeah, to your point, and then piggybacking, the lack of social interaction, the lack of being outside, to have been bullied, and then social media. I mean, nobody wants to get fucked up now.
Hmm.
You
Right.
know what I
Right.
mean?
And that's the other thing. Social media. Nobody wants to be put on video getting beat up. Right.
Mhm.
Nobody wants to be embarrassed. Like if you get punched in your face years ago, it's yo, did you see so and so got punched in the face? And then the people in your high school might know, maybe some people that live on your street, things like that. But now that shit could go viral, and you can have your video on World Star and everywhere else. So these kids are like, if you punch me in my face, I'm probably gonna kill you, like because you might have over embarrassed me. But they, I don't know, man. Something has to change. Someone somewhere has to make some type of law, legislation, rule, and it's tough because you have these politicians that play the part. And before we get into, and this will be a transition into VP's political minute, but you have these politicians that play this, you know, thoughts and prayers throughout the Republican reign, right? And now we're in the Democratic reign, and I want to see what kind of responses we get, right? I mean, we've seen in the past where like Obama has gone to sites and stuff like that, and I want to see how Biden's gonna respond to it. I mean, I'm not saying obviously he can't dictate the laws behind it, right? But can he start the conversation, right? Can you start the conversation of how do we change some of this? How do we minimize gun purchases, right? How do we regulate gun purchases, to VP's point, right? I've been here in Florida since '04 now, so 17 years. It'll be 17 years or 18 years next year that I've been here in Florida, and I got my concealed carry the year I got here. In 18 years, I could have gone through so much. I could have gone through so much mental anguish and things. You don't know what I could have gone through. And between then and now, the only thing I've had to do to renew is send a new picture with some money. That's
Not
it.
only that, how did they give it to you your first year of being there? You could have
Hmm.
been on the lam.
And
You
and
could have
and and
had
that kind of
5 bodies in Connecticut.
goes to the point that you made earlier, EJ, about when you were talking about things you didn't know about the ATF. So one of the things they do with these background check laws, they do your background check, and if it's not done within a certain period of time, you're just allowed to purchase it. And then once the background check comes back, if you're somebody who you have a felony or for whatever reason, you're not allowed to own a gun for whatever legal reason, then at that point they'll send an ATF agent to your home or wherever it is that you live to recover the weapon from you because you're not legally allowed to own it, right? But even something like that, where we prioritize the speed of getting the gun versus the making sure this person should have the gun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think that's a good spot, man. Let's get into, before we start to look into bingeables. VP, let us know, give us some insight. I know it's a lot, like you said, a lot of people are on break and or maybe maybe back from Thanksgiving but prepping for Christmas or whatever that looks like. But what do we have on the political front?
On the political front, not a lot happening. They're still trying to pass Biden's Build Back Better agenda. This week, President lit the national Christmas tree. It's a yearly thing that they do. You also had this whole controversy with Lauren Boebert, who's the congresswoman from Colorado, who said the Islamophobic thing about the congresswoman from Minnesota, Ilhan Omar. That thing is still kind of boiling over.
As it should.
Did you see the threats that she got?
That shit was so disgusting. Basically, somebody sent her. I don't know if you saw it or not, EJ, but someone sent her a voicemail, and the voicemail starts off with something like, you sand nigger bitch, something like that.
All because the broad from Colorado said some bullshit. She now gets that.
Yeah, right. And so so that's still going on. People are hoping that Kevin McCarthy, who's the Republican leader in the House, will discipline this congresswoman, but he's already come out and said, some kind of bullshit, basically, like nothing to see here, essentially. So that's not going to happen. So people are looking at Nancy Pelosi and the Dems to see if they, put some kind of, ramifications on that.
What are the possibilities there? Like, what could they do? Not the percentages, but what could they do, Roy?
So the most they could do is expulsion. So the House decides, or the Senate and the House both can determine its own member, so they can expel her from Congress.
Okay.
That's like, the most. That's like the nuclear option, essentially.
Gotcha.
The next biggest thing they can do is censure. And we talked about that when the guy Paul Gosar got censured a couple of weeks ago. The problem is that, like, in the history of the House of Representatives, there's only been like 12 people censured, right? And it's supposed to be like this. It's a big deal. You know what I mean? That goes on your permanent record, but you got to think that the Republican Party now operates without shame, right? And
Clearly.
So they can do something. Like you think about a different perspective of, like, Obama passed the stimulus, right? No Republicans vote for it. And then they rail about how it's a terrible idea. You shouldn't do it, yada, yada, yada. It gets passed, and then some congressman from the 3rd District of North Carolina, I'm just throwing out a random place, I don't know. And they out there saying, hey, look at all these jobs this fucking stimulus just doing. You're like, we're killing it in DC. Don't reelect me, And then the media would say, hey, you didn't vote for the stimulus. And here's this video of you on the House floor saying passing the stimulus would be tyranny.
Right.
So, like, what the fuck's going on? And then the person would issue a statement saying, oh, well, I had to change your heart, something like that. Now they'll just say, oh, it's fake news.
Yeah.
You can't believe that shit, and or you take it a step further, because the media is so segmented and siloed, right? That it's likely that the people who voted for that person watches Fox News, OAN, or Newsmax, and they don't even see it. So they don't know that this happened with this person. All they know is Congressman so-and-so said he's bringing home the bacon. I see this road getting built, so this guy's doing it, and they could disassociate that with Biden or Democrats completely. You know what I mean? So it's a tough landscape, man. But yeah, so you got that going on. In Atlanta, they had an election for mayor. EJ
Dre.
but I can't think of his name right
Andre
now.
something.
Yeah, he won the mayor.
He's brown?
Race. Yeah,
He's black.
black. It's Atlanta. Come on, man.
Oh yes, I did see that.
he's Atlanta. So
He beat a woman trying to run, talking about she's going to close down strip clubs.
Oh,
Yeah,
well, there you go.
She was bugging.
That's why
yeah,
you lost. That's how you bring them out. Bring them
Yep.
out. Bring
like
'em out.
I don't know what she
Ti,
was thinking
all
about.
of them was on there like, yo,
Yeah,
Ti put this, he put this deep ass post like she trying to wreck our way of life.
Right.
I mean, I get it because
she coming for the culture.
it is very true. But this dude, you would have thought he was talking about voting rights. This
Yeah,
nigga was like, you know what I mean? She coming for the. I was like, hey,
yo,
yo, that joint
but
was
yeah,
funny.
so and then also Stacey Abrams jumped in the back in the governor's race for Georgia
Mhm.
for 2022. So she's now a candidate, and she's the favorite to be the Democratic nominee um, um, for the state of Georgia. I would say she's also the favorite to actually win that seat, but given all the restrictive voting laws that we've seen pass in Georgia and other states throughout the country after 2020, I don't know,
Yeah.
but yeah, she entered the race, so we got that happening. But that's
Shout
most of
out to
what's been
her.
going on. Yeah, I love Stacey Abrams, man.
Shout out to her, man.
Yeah,
Continuing the fight. But
yeah,
that's with with Congresswoman Omar, that's just disgusting, man. It's
hmm
racism, yo. I'm telling you, man, and I'm not gonna say it's a certain ethnicity, but it likely usually always is. These people are just they're just getting more and more brazen, yo.
hmm
And it
When you have politicians doing it, yes, it's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
It's
and
crazy.
it reflects the nation. It reflects what's going on in the street. And I tell you, man, black people, if and the sad part is, man, we've never been so more. I don't know, never, but you would think the better in social media, the better in so many other areas, the better united we will become, and we're just getting further and further from that. If not in the streets with the drugs and crime, just socially between black men and women and the different communities. And we just at some point we just got to be black and understand we don't all have to have a monolithic thought. We can agree to disagree, we can beef, but these people are literally coming for our lives, man.
hmm
Hmm.
Literally. It's crazy. It's crazy the stuff that I see when I've been outside and the different things, because I'm in a town, right, where in most, let's just say, well-to-do areas where you not like specifically in the hood, which ain't a problem. But I mean, me personally being from a hood, I'm not going to the hood most times without somebody from there, because that's just not what you raised to do, right? But when you in these little bar communities and everything, you interact and you hear and you see the stuff going on, with the white folks and others, it's just crazy how emboldened these people have become,
yeah.
openly again.
Oh, and one other thing, I had it on my list. I don't know how the hell I overlooked it because it was huge.
She said.
On on Tuesday, the Supreme Court had the hearing over the Mississippi abortion law. I listened to that live, and based on, they always say, you can't really infer what the justices are going to rule based on the oral argument, but based on what I heard, Roe v. Wade is dead, and the
It's been
question is
dead.
whether, no, no, no. I mean, like, I'm talking about, like, they're going to overturn it, I think, and the question is whether or not they keep the standard. In my mind, and what I heard, the standard is whether or not they keep the line of viability. I think that's the only thing that we're talking about here.
That
But I think
doesn't
Roe,
shock me though. Everything that
it
people
doesn't.
have written about it has said this is where it's going.
hmm
Everything everybody's written about it has said this is where it's going.
Yeah. So we're gonna have. I mean, it's gonna be tough for women in this country, and in particularly poor women and poor women of color, because there are people who need abortion services, and and the thing, I saw somebody on the news on Friday night, and they were talking about this, and they made a great point, and it's something that we didn't hear at all during the Supreme Court arguments, and I think that it was a mistake that every time they were talking about abortion, they were talking about women, 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 and they never talked about kids. And this woman, she's a black woman. She's a professor, and I hate that I can't think of her name, but she wrote an article in the New York Times, and she talked about how when she was 10 years old, she was raped by her father, and the father continued raping her. And by the time she was 12, she had got pregnant, and she actually didn't even know she was pregnant. The father took her to a doctor to get an abortion, and then she says in the article that she didn't know what was going on. She didn't know where they were going. The father lied to the doctor and told them that she was 15, and that she had, made a mistake with a boyfriend or whatever, and she had an abortion or whatever. But you know, if they get rid of Roe, you're gonna see things like this, where like in this Mississippi law, for example, there is no exception for rape or incest, right? And the same thing like in the Texas law and tons of other laws that have passed, abortion restrictions throughout the country, where they don't even put in exceptions for rape, incest, or health of the mother. It's just if you get pregnant, you're just a vessel. So the government is saying you have to have this child. Now it's just, it's so fucked up, and I think that we make a mistake as a, not we like us, but like as a country. I think that we make a mistake thinking that abortion rights are just a women's issue, and it's not, because we have sisters, we have moms, cousins, aunts, some of us have daughters, you know what I mean? And this shit affects all of us, man. And for the party that considers itself to be the conservative party, the Republican Party, to say that the government should have control of somebody's body, whether or not they bring a child into the world, is this shit is unconscionable to me. You know what I mean? Like I mean, you think about the fact that in this state, in Florida, where we have some tough abortion laws, as well as in Texas, the governors of those two states are saying that it's not okay for the government to tell a kid to wear a mask to not spread a disease, but it's okay to make them have a baby. Like what the fuck are we doing here, yo?
Yeah, and on one hand, you're gonna force it. You force it, but then you don't want to provide funding for those that need.
Exactly.
So some of the people that are, and don't get me wrong, man, I'm not a pro-abortion individual, but I do understand in extreme circumstances, right?
Nobody's for abortion.
Right. But when you talk about those types of circumstances, those situations, when people go to do that, it's because they have a reason, right? There's a reason for it, right? If you're just like, man, it was a crazy night and we didn't strap up, and well, yeah, we should probably go ahead and get rid of this. That's a different story from from a couple that might sit down and say, hey, listen,
But why?
The quality of life that this individual would get if we have this child is, could be slim to none. And I don't mean like a one night stand bar. I mean a couple. I mean like,
No, that's I understood what you were saying.
right.
My question is, but why does that even matter? If you're a girl, right? You go off to college, first time you're away from home, you're 18, 19 years old, and I don't know if it's the first time that you've had sex, or regardless, doesn't matter, right? And you become pregnant because you made a mistake. Why should that have to impact the rest of your life if you're not ready to bring a child in the world? You're in college, you don't have any income, you don't have a career, you have no way to provide for this child. So the same scenario that you're laying out for, if it was a couple versus like a one night stand kind of hook up from the club vibe or whatever, I don't see the difference, right? At the end of the day, this is somebody's life. And when you have a child, as you have a kid, this is something that it doesn't make an impact. It's not like you're like, man, should I buy these shoes? I mean, part of it is my rent money. I could probably do some overtime. Like, it's not going to have like an impact for the next 2 weeks. We're talking about something that's going to be impacting you for the rest of your life. Think about people who that in that same situation where it's a one night stand, where this person now is forced to carry this child to term, right? And then they get sick during the pregnancy. My own wife, right? She has a heart problem now. That's the result of a pregnancy. Now, we were trying to have a kid. We wanted to have a kid. We had no clue that having a kid would do that to her body. You know what I mean? But now she has a heart problem that's going to be with her for the rest of her life as a result of a pregnancy. So imagine that happening to somebody who didn't even want a kid. You know what I mean?
I agree with that. But to me, right, I'm the way I look at where we are today, we are creating a society free of consequence, right?
Mhm.
And just because you made a bad decision, and just because you were irresponsible about something, you know, that's an extreme situation. That's an extreme decision to be made because you were irresponsible, right? The responsible part to it comes in and says, hey, listen, we made this decision, we were extremely irresponsible. How do we make this right? If that's your absolute last option and you land on that, okay, I get it, right? But we have a society free of consequence, and everything we're continuing to do with the changes to rules and laws and everything around here, including gun laws, including individuals shooting written, you got the Rittenhouses and things like that, the Zimmermans and stuff like that. That is continuing to create this kind of behavior to me here. So but that's what I was getting at. I feel like people should sit down, have a conversation, make that determination, and if it's the last result, yeah. Now, if you're talking about rape, you're talking about underage, you're talking about all types of stuff like that, I think that's a no-brainer. That's a complete no-brainer.
Okay, so here's my thought on that, right? One, when we and I'm let me be absolutely clear that I don't think that you're saying this, but when we use words like consequences, to me, that can sound like we're making a form of punishment. Hey, you went out, you made your bed, now lie in it, right? And I don't think that we should live in a society like that that says, hey, you made this mistake and now you have to live with this for the rest of your life, right? And you know, you juxtapose that with what you said earlier about how you have some of these politicians who want to cut government programs and social safety net and things like that. So they say we're going to force you to have this baby, and now that your life has been altered forever, right? And you have a shitty chance at earning a decent wage to take care of yourself, let alone a child. We also won't give you any assistance to help you take care of that kid either. You made your bed, lie in it, right? That's just a problem for me, and at the hearing, Amy Coney Barrett, who was the woman that Trump replaced Ruth Bader Ginsburg with in the Supreme Court. She asked about these safe haven laws, right? And if you don't know what safe haven laws are, those are the laws that basically allow people to, once they have a kid, they can like drop it off at a fire station or like a police station, something like that. And she's making the point of, instead of a person having an abortion, they could just use the safe haven laws throughout the country and drop that kid off at a firehouse or something like that, right? But now let's go back to my example, right? Now you've gotten pregnant. This pregnancy alters your body, gets you sick, whatever. You know, you carried this child with you. You potentially, have a relationship with it. How hard is that to not only have to go through the pregnancy, go through the delivery, and then make a choice to give the kid up, to put it in the shitty system that we have? Like, it's bullshit. I don't think that this is a personal choice that should be made between that woman, her partner, and their doctor. The government, i.e., me, since the government represents us, don't need to be in the room. I don't need to be a part of the decision making process.
Yeah, but when you say you're not for you made a decision, you have to live with this the rest of your life. And I know this is going to be extreme, and it's two different situations, apples and pineapples. But how's it any different from Rittenhouse? Right? I mean, the kid made a mistake. We believe that he had full intent, right? But those people are thinking the same way that you're thinking about abortion. You shouldn't be held accountable for this for the rest of your life. You shouldn't have to deal with this, this challenge that comes with being a parent and whatever comes along with that, because you made a poor decision and a mistake. That's how they're looking at Rittenhouse. Well, this kid made a mistake. He went over there. He had some intentions. He had some positive intentions. And he was protecting himself. And he made a mistake. He probably shouldn't have been there, but he made a mistake. And what going there was the mistake, and it led to him having to do this to protect himself, right? And so that's why I say, when I say a society free of consequence, that's kind of what I mean. I don't mean like living the rest of your life and having to deal with it, but if you make some decisions, man, listen, you need to deal with it. That's why we are the way we are today as a society, man. You got people that don't want to go to work, people that don't want to get a job, you got people that do get jobs and then don't want to show up and think it's okay and shit like that. Like, listen, man, there needs to be consequences to your actions. For every action is a reaction. You got to deal with that.
I mean, I hear what you're saying. We're not going to agree on this topic because I totally wholeheartedly disagree.
EJ, change your angle.
I'm
Nasty
trying
man.
to get my headphones to connect and they're not connecting.
No.
I don't know why.
No, and we don't have to agree. We're not. I mean, we don't. There's a lot of stuff we don't agree on, right? And that's fine. That's just that's the life, right? That's the life that we live as individuals, and that's our human right to feel a certain way, right? About different things, to agree to disagree or disagree to agree, right?
And so here's my thing, Steve. Right? When it comes to abortion, I don't like abortion, right? But abortion is an effective tool that allows women and couples and whatever to chart the path that they see for their lives, right? And I don't think that the government or society should be in the room making that choice for those individuals. Whether a person wants to bring a child in this world, that should be up to them. And regardless if they had a one night stand, oopsie, or whether or not they were actually planning to have a kid, if you had two partners, whether it's a married couple, long-term relationship, etc. You know what I mean? I just feel like it's none of my business and I shouldn't be involved in it. This person terminating a pregnancy or not has nothing to do with me or you, so why do we get a say in the matter?
No, we don't. And I agree with you there wholeheartedly. Let me clear that, right? I'm just giving my personal thoughts and opinions about it, right?
Right.
I think the it should be an open decision. It should be a decision that anyone can make for themselves, regardless. That's just my outlook on it. My outlook on it is, oopsie, we had a rough night. We got too drunk and you didn't strap up, and now we're gonna have 3 kids instead of 2, and why don't we go down to the old clinic? That's what I'm. But again, that's me personally. I don't think there should be any rules or laws against it happening. I just don't agree with it.
Right. And I hear what you're saying, but the issue that we're facing today is that the state of Mississippi is saying that's not your choice. We're making the choice for you.
Oh yeah.
And if you become pregnant, then you have to have the baby. And then if you become pregnant as a result of rape, you have to carry the rapist's baby to term and raise it or give it up for adoption. If you get raped by your uncle or your father or your brother, you got to carry that baby to term and either raise it or give it up for. That's what the state is telling these women. And if you live in Texas or Mississippi, and also keep in mind that there are tons of states out there, like I believe Arkansas is one of them, but there are tons of basically conservative Republican states that have passed laws that are like considered like trigger laws, they call them. That if they've already passed laws that outlaw abortion in their state, and basically is written to say if the Supreme Court overturns Roe, this law goes into effect immediately. So as soon as they rule and overturn Roe, you're gonna have places or states in this country to where women can't access abortion period unless they travel outside of the state. So if you're in a state like Florida, you're talking about traveling 500-600 miles, right? That costs time off work. That costs money to travel, hotels, things like that. And that's the point. They know they're not going to outlaw it outright, right? But you make it so hard to where it effectively is no longer used.
Yeah. How frequently can this potentially be revisited though?
I mean, it really just it depends. There's the Congress could pass Roe v. Wade into law and codify it into law. The issue is that if they do that, then the next Republican Congress could overturn it, right? If you get a
Gotcha.
Republican Congress administration, they could just overturn it, and then it becomes like a ping pong thing, right? Um, um, in the future, if the makeup of the Supreme Court changes, whether or not they were to add justices, or like once some folks retire, depending on if a Republican appointee like a Clarence Thomas, for example, who's the oldest on the conservative side of the court, if he were to pass away, resign, or become incapacitated, whatever, if his seat became vacant, and then while Biden's in office, he replaced him or whatever, that still wouldn't give the liberal side the majority. But if the makeup of the court changed, you could have somebody who challenges the law in a state where they've outlawed it, and then it goes back to the Supreme Court. And then again, it just becomes a ping pong thing again. Like, okay, when the conservatives are in charge, we can't have abortion. When the liberals are in charge, we can. And that's not how rights work, right? Like, people don't get to decide that I have to go in through the back door as a black man just because this group of people are in charge at the moment. That's not how rights work. You know what I mean? So that's part of the problem with this thing. And then you had yeah, I'll leave it there. But that's not how rights work.
I think it kind of goes back to right versus left versus right versus wrong in a lot of these situations. People stand, and I feel like there are probably a lot of people out there that can't separate their opinion from their party. And I think that's on both sides, right? And so when you talk about the abortion and stuff like that, I'm sure there's people out there that are against it, but they have to stick with their party, right? And we've gotten to that point. It's just it's terrible. Everything is political, man. Everything has turned to politics nowadays. And people's decisions and thoughts are based on, well, if I say otherwise, would I be going against, Trump or the MAGA community, or the Republican Party, and so on. It's just, I don't know, man. I don't know how we get away from this. We're so divided as a fucking nation, man.
I think a lot of times people aren't able to see the other side of things, and so folks are against something until it impacts them. You know what I mean? And it's the same way you see people who talk about I can't think of something right now where like I was against this one thing and then this thing happened to me and it changed my mind. Or like gay rights is one of the big ones. You've had a lot of people who are on the conservative Republican side who don't support gay rights, gay marriage, anything like that. And then Rob Portman is an example. He's a senator from Ohio, voted against all this gay rights legislation, against gay marriage, everything gay. He's not for it. And then his son comes out as gay, and now all of a sudden he's a champion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, yeah, fuck those people. Oh, it's my son. We got to do something about this.
Yeah, he deserves rights.
So and so that's the problem, is that people, tend to not care about shit until it impacts them. And I think sometimes you got to try to, obviously we all care about ourselves, but sometimes you have to think about, the greater good, because, like the thing that you were saying a moment ago about people not wanting to work and sitting on government benefits and things like that, right? There are people who feel that way, but also don't support abortion rights. So they say, yeah, not only should the government make you have this kid, you shouldn't get any help in raising it. And then also, if I find you're sleeping on the streets or in my parks, we got to send the cops to get rid of you, because I don't want to have to look at you. Like you can't be homeless in my sight.
You
like,
can't.
what the fuck?
You can't drive down my my property value. You can't drive down the property value of my neighborhood.
You see what I'm saying? And so And so this thing is not as simple as whether or not you support, you're pro-choice or not, right? I mean, these things have consequences or whatever, especially when we talk about children having children. And I don't just mean like, minors, like in the example we used earlier, where you got like some college student who's 19 or whatever. This person has a whole life ahead of them, and that whole thing can be derailed by a pregnancy. Everybody don't have that situation where it's going to be like, oh, well, my parents are going to raise it while I finish school, and then I'll go and get this good job, and then that way I'll be set up for the future. And it don't happen like that. That shit only happens in the movies.
Yeah, man. Yeah. All right, we'll see, man. We'll see. We can beat it. Till it's bloody and gory, but people. What you guys been watching, man? I'm on The Wire. Have you guys heard of this show? Shit, it's on. I think I'm gonna watch some of it maybe tonight. It's on Prime. They're saying it's like the new
The Thrones.
Yeah.
The Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
I'm watching
I've
it.
seen. Oh, okay. I got it on my list. I haven't watched it yet.
I don't think VP is gonna like it. Been watching it, and I wonder if it's probably based off books. I don't know, but the thing that I'm struggling with, I don't know what direction it's going, and it's kind of like the writing is like it's like taking a lot of time to get to the point, and the whole theme behind it though is going with the premise that basically women are the strongest people in the world, basically.
Oh, then he's gonna love it.
So it's caught me though. I'm not gonna lie. Like I started it. I just watched the episode that came out on Friday last night, so I'm pretty caught up. I've been watching it. It's had me a little captivated. It's not HBO where you're gonna see.
That's why he's not gonna like it.
So you're not gonna
Yeah.
see all of that. It's it's like 16 teenage, but it's decent. It's got a decent story. I can see how it could open up a whole new world of that Game of Thrones type thing. But yeah,
I got that on my list.
Yeah, it's on my list too. It's a 14 book series, so I'm sure.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we're probably if it does well, I think we will absolutely see series upon series, which I hope it's as good as people are saying, or I hope it continues to be as good and sustains the level of quality that people are saying it has already demonstrated. That's what we're looking for. But yeah, it's 14 books already, 14 novel series so far. So that'd be excellent if we could see that. And it looks like the first book was published in 1990. And it didn't end until 2013. So you're talking about a 13-year span. I'm sorry. 14 years, 23 year span. 23 year span of thoughts, right? Going through authors and the writer and you know what I mean? So I think that can make for some pretty good TV. Because you'll see the difference in the thought patterns and the way society was and things like that as they went through it. Acceptable cultures, acceptable wording, verbiage, thing like that. 2,782 different characters in this series. So yeah, man,
it's definitely interesting. I mean, it caught me. It captivated me. Like I said, it's taking a little while to tease out, a lot of different stuff, but it has me. I don't know that it's gonna keep me, but it has me.
Yeah, and I'm cool with that, and that's why.
I'm sorry, real quick, VP. The chick who was playing in the movie,
I Care a Lot.
I Care a Lot. She's one of the main characters.
Rosamund, some shit. I can't remember what her last name is.
Good. So maybe, I mean, how many episodes? Do you know how many episodes it is so far yet, EJ? Or
There's
I'm
been at
trying to.
least 5 or 6.
Okay. So maybe, yeah. So we need to get caught up, and then because it drops every Friday.
Yeah.
Then if we like it, then we can make that a talking point, and we can discuss. So, yeah, it sounds like a good one. Sounds like a good one.
Yeah, I definitely got
Uh,
that on my list. I also got Hannah on my list. That's another Amazon Prime show.
Okay.
It's in
That's
the
an
third
old one,
season.
though, right?
Yeah, it's in the third season. It just came back. It's about like a girl, like it's like the CIA has some program where they were like getting kids from birth and like training them, basically like Jason Bourne type shit. But instead of getting them out the military, they got them since birth, and it's all girls because they're like, oh, they're young girls, so they're unsuspecting. You know what I mean? Um,
Wasn't
so
there a movie about that?
I don't know if it was a movie, but I've only seen it from the show.
And I'm pretty sure the movie's name was Hannah.
I mean,
I
it might be.
only know it off the show. For
Yeah,
sure.
but I mean, that concept has been around forever, so it's not like it's new.
Yeah.
But I don't know if Hannah itself was a movie. But yeah, I've been
2011.
watching
Yeah.
that. I watched the first 2 seasons, and so I'm gonna watch the third season as well. Also been watching, Insecure, obviously. Um,
I'm
this
behind by
past
an
week,
episode.
Insecure. I didn't like the last episode.
I didn't
Like
see it, but I gotta watch it.
I'm not gonna spoil it for you, but the thing I didn't like about it, and it's something I actually don't like about Insecure. Period. I hate the fact that it's 30 minutes because like this episode, like
Should've
the
been
episode is going and it was
You
like
wanted
building up.
more?
Yeah, and like right when it got to
Climax.
okay, yeah, the episode ended. And I was like, what the fuck? Like so so I didn't like that aspect of it. But yeah, but I still watch that. And I also checked out King Richard, the
Ah,
Venus and Serena, about Venus and Serena's dad, Venus and Serena Williams, their dad.
yep.
That was pretty good. I wonder how close that is to being accurate on how it went down, But yeah, man, you see that and it kind of, I don't know, like I was one of those people who I felt like EJ at times when we talk about LeVar Ball, right? Dealing with LaMelo and all of those guys,
Mhm.
the whole Ball family. I was on EJ's vibe. Like this man is doing what he got to do to get his kids where they want to be, and at the same time, I also felt like this guy is a complete fucking asshole. You know what I mean? And I don't know, maybe because this day and age with media and social media, he was more in our face, and so it was kind of like, yeah, what the fuck is this dude's problem? But Richard Williams was the same way. There was just no social media. When you watch that movie, I mean, that shit gives you mad LeVar Ball vibes, But it turns out he was right, and you see some of the decisions that he made, man, and it's just like, yo, like, man, that's dedication. And one thing that I like that they did, it wasn't necessarily central to the story, but I think that they tried to think of like what could come out in the future because apparently like my wife is a huge Venus and Serena fan, so she knows like all about their family and stuff like that. So apparently like the dad was married before. He has like 5 other kids that he like abandoned and shit, and the kids don't fuck with him, he don't fuck with them, and that kind of thing like that. And usually when you see these type of movies, they portray that person as just being like, oh, this hero, he was active in his kids' lives, and it kind of ends like that. But they actually put that in the story. They didn't make it it was like a 2-minute section of the movie to call it out, and then they kind of moved on from it. You know what I mean? But
Their older sister commented on it, saying how Will Smith should be ashamed of himself, and it's like she's never even met Venus and Serena.
What, saying like they should have did more?
Mm-hmm.
No,
Well, because you're projecting.
highlighted.
Yeah, you project somebody as, this positive individual, but there's always someone that knows the other side of them. You know what I mean?
right.
And, listen, it's to your point. Well, it's not to your point, but people make mistakes, man. People make mistakes. I was listening to Sway in the Morning, and they were talking about Roe v. Wade, and they were talking about King Richard. They were talking about a bunch of stuff like that, and there was this one girl that called in, and she was explaining her situation, how She didn't have a relationship with her father until she was 12 or 13 years old, and she resented him because, even at 12 or 13, when she finally met him, he had two other families. He had two other kids with two different other women, but those kids lived a beautiful life. They had, a dog, and they had picket fences and shit like that, while she was stuck in the hood, right? So her perspective and her idea and thoughts of her father is he's a piece of shit, right? But for those other two, right, they probably are like, man, my dad is a hero. He's always provided for me. He's always made, he pushed me. And that's, I think that's kind of where, you know, their older sister EJ's talking about, comes in, even though EJ is now sideways and probably doesn't know that he's sideways.
Hey, I don't even have to smoke and drive and have the phone on.
But nah,
Let's
I hear
prioritize the smoke.
I hear what you're saying, Steve, and I don't necessarily disagree with it. But I would make the argument to the sister is that's not really what this movie is about. This movie is about like what he did to get them to stardom. And yeah, it focuses on him, but it's basically showing like how a man who knows nothing about tennis taught his daughters how to play tennis and become the greatest tennis players in history. You know what I mean? And
But not only,
so,
not only that too, BP, like what would a movie like that really look like? Okay, I was with your mom. I didn't want to be with her no more. I did. Like we ain't got an hour to go through all of that shit.
right.
Like, what is that really gonna look like?
So I mean, it's and like I said, they called it out in the movie, right? But they didn't make it like a central thing. It was like, okay, this guy. Because when you watch the movie, like you keep hearing the coach, like the tennis coaches, when he finally gets them some coaching, they're like, this dude's fucking crazy, man. Like, you know what I mean? And he always, every time people say he's crazy, he says, I got this plan from the time y'all was born. I wrote this plan, and everything. I got everything on track, da da da. My plan, my plan, my plan. And him and his wife end up having an argument, and she's like, "You acting like you do everything, like I don't do shit around here, blah blah blah." And she was like, "Your kids came here, and I didn't say nothing. Most women would have left you, da da da." And she calls him out for like abandoning his other kids or whatever. But yeah,
And
but
she, I think she
again,
produced. I think she wrote and produced the movie. The wife that plays alongside Will.
oh, okay,
I think this is her flick.
okay. But yeah, what I mean. So it's not like it's not it. They gave it lip service, but that's not what this story was about. And so, they called it out to say, hey, you don't think this guy is all fucking, peaches and cream. He got people are onions. They got layers. You know what I mean? And so but it
But
was
the
good
point
though,
about
man.
LeVar Ball, being an asshole, and I didn't grow up with my father at all. But the fathers that I've seen that were active in their kids' lives, you know, it's a difference. Like my kids are gonna call me an asshole to a large perspective one day, but that's daddy, right? Because you have to be a certain kind of way. Like your mom could be an asshole, but society never really looks at the woman as being an asshole with the kids because they're always the nurturer. They brought them in, they carried them, etc. But you always see that. Like I don't ever remember knowing a dude who grew up with their father that didn't think their father was an asshole. Didn't mean, you know what I mean? Especially if they was there and in their lives. I don't know not one dude in my life. I mean, and I don't know many that grew up with their pops that didn't think. I know a couple that had just some really nice dads, but the rest of them was like, yo, I ain't fuck with my father like that, but he's a great man, and now I get it. And like LeVar Ball, like this dude, and Richard Williams, these dudes knew what their sons were gonna do. They put it in place, and they were successful. Like in America, what we have this one thing on the one hand where black men aren't there for the kids and they wind up in jail, and then you got these two dudes who've been successful all through their kids' lives at getting them to their goals, have exceeded their goals, and they're actually making it happen, and everybody finds a reason to hate them.
Yeah, and when I say asshole, I don't mean it in that sense. I know what you mean, EJ. when I was saying asshole, I just kind of meant like how in your face LeVar Ball was with it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's what I meant about not the
And
driving his
I get
kids and
that,
stuff
and I
like that.
get that too. And part of that is he had to sell the Ball children, right? Number one, but then two, nobody ever talks about how we have social media now, where he's taking advantage of that, and we see it. But we always talk about the Manning, Archie Manning. You know, that whole situation with Eli and San Diego and everything else. You know what I mean? Archie Manning very well could be labeled as an asshole, but nobody's going to say that. One, because we didn't have social media at that time. Two, Archie Manning's white and revered by the media. And three, he's white again. So, you know what I mean? How many of these parents, these helicopter sports parents that have had these great athletes through life, how many of them were assholes and we just don't know? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, and I hear you, but that's all I meant. But like you know, in that, you know, he there's a part where they kind of get to that, to your point, EJ, where when Venus starts playing on the junior circuit and he's watching how the parents interact with the kids, and he, you know, the kids who are like, "Do you want to be here or not? What are you doing? Come on!" Da, da, da. You know, because like when Venus was playing, he was just on the sideline. She would do good. He just clap a couple times. Most times he didn't even watch because he didn't like to watch or whatever. You know, he would be too nervous. You know, and so like while she's playing, he got his back turned or whatever because he didn't want to see it. You know, and he saw that and how the kids looked burnt out, and he pulled her out of juniors. And the coach was like, "Dude, what the fuck are you doing? Like, if she don't play, like this is the path. You got to go through juniors, and then once you go through juniors, you turn pro." And he's like, "Nah, we're not gonna play no more matches till she turns pro." And the coach is like, "What the fuck? Like, are you crazy?" You know what I mean? Like, you know, but again, it was a good story. There was a lot in the story that I didn't know about their careers. You know what I mean? I always thought he coached them from the time they became pro. I didn't know they had professional coaching, and that he actually got the coaches to agree to coach them for free. Their coach they had right before they went pro, he actually paid for them to move. He is a guy named Rick Macy. He paid for them to move from California to here in Florida, and he had his whole little facility, and he paid for their house, everything, for like 3 years until Venus went pro. You know, so like all that stuff I didn't know, but it was a good story, man. It was a good story.
And another thing I've been binging, thanks to Steve, is the reboot of Saved by the Bell. And boy, let me tell you,
Yeah, I saw your comment in the chat about Juicy Smouye.
no, it wasn't Jesse. That's no. I was talking about Jesse's family. She boy, I think her real name is like Elizabeth something, man. Boy, she aged well with time. But that show, man, is cheesy as hell. But it is nostalgic. It is written very well. It's funny, and they try to tackle like a lot of cultural issues and stuff. So it's a pretty good watch. VP, I don't know that you would survive through it, but yeah, I can't lie, man. When I watched the first episode, and like I told you, I follow Mario Lopez, who is, I think, a producer or a writer or something with it. But it's just a funny ass show, and I was cracking up the entire time watching it.
Where's it at?
It's on Peacock.
Okay. And also,
yeah, which you have free, by the way, Vari. I told you last week, but you don't listen.
Okay. Do they do they like address like the street situation at all?
What streets?
Screech or whatever the fuck is.
Oh,
You know,
Screech.
Oh, they do a
No,
tribute to
did
him
they?
kind of. They do a tribute to him kind of this season, because I think between last
Season
season
2.
when he died, yeah.
I didn't see. I haven't gotten to season 2 yet. I'm sure they probably do. I'm sure they do. I want to watch it. I want to continue to watch it. I'll continue to watch it. It's cheesy. It's cheesy, you know, but it's nostalgic. You know, it's like it's better than, to me, it's better than like when they did the Girl Meets World. So like I was a huge Boy Meets World fan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I didn't like Girl Meets World when they rebooted and had like the daughter, even though Topanga and Corey were the parents and shit. Nah, it just didn't do it for me.
Yeah.
Nah, I didn't hit at all. It wasn't good at The writing
I
was
agree.
horrible. It was too like down and depressing. This joint they made it like extremely cheesy for a reason, and they took it back to exactly how Saved by the Bell was when Zach had his little monologues to the side, and only the audience can hear him, and it's really funny. It's the comedy is really funny to me. It's really well done, and they get like really like kind of raunchy at points.
And the main character is she she is thick, like cold cream of wheat.
Pot of grits.
Yeah, she's old. What else? EJ, you been watching anything else other than Saved by the Bell?
Mm, I tried to get into Lost in Space because they got a new season that just dropped. It 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 caught me at first, and I was watching it, and then I started to drift off and not really keep up with it. But I need to kind of dive back into it. Me and my oldest was watching it together, and we both kind of checked out of it at the same time. But the Ghost Power Book 2 is out, like I said last week, and
Oh,
I
I'm
don't
caught up
know.
on that.
Yeah, I mean I don't know where it's gonna go. I mean, like I said, I'm starting to think if I was to rank the Power series, of course it would be Power one. I would go Raising Kanan 2, BMF 3, and then the Power Book 4 now. Because I just the writing, I don't. It's just too unreal. It's just too unreal. Too many unreal scenarios for me. But I'm sure it's gonna be entertaining at some point. And then we got Force coming out with our boy Tommy. So I don't know. Other than that, I don't think I've watched anything else.
Yeah, I think for me, I think Power Book 2, it just it's the continuation of regular Power, or kind of with the characters. I mean, that draws me to it. Plus, I'm a huge Method Man fan. Like, so him being in there and seeing his progression, like seeing he's gotten so much better as an actor. Like, Method Man he gets it. He's getting there. Mary J still sucks. She's terrible. It's the same.
I like her.
She is terrible, bro.
I like her.
Like, if she says one more time, I said what I said, I'm done. Like, she is literally the
I love
worst
Mary J.
actress I've ever seen, bro.
I love Mary
Um,
J. I love her. She can
I
make her
love her as a
own.
person, but as an actress, she got the goat. Um, but we'll see, man. We'll
I
see.
love
I
Hey,
won't. I'm gonna keep watching it.
did either one of y'all get a chance to check out the DMX documentary I told y'all about last week?
Mm-mm.
her. Now, dog, not
No.
trying to be depressed on purpose.
What do you say?
Yeah, not around holiday time.
I'm not trying to be depressed on purpose, dog.
Oh, okay.
That joint will make me sad, yo. I can't do it.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, I haven't been really watching much of anything either. I mean, I've had some Saved by the Bell watching, and been watching The Wire and stuff. But I do want to get into that one that we just talked about. What is it? Wheel of Time.
Wheel of Time, yeah.
Yeah.
Wheel of
Yeah, I
Time.
do. I'm definitely getting into that. Um, but yeah, man. So I think that's it, man. That's where we end today. We're right about the 2 hour mark, and so I
Do
think it's
picks
a good.
offline, folks.
I think it's huh.
I was telling the people we'll do picks offline.
Yeah, I think it's a good. Last week was, you guys had some pretty decent days. I had a shitty day. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I only had 6. Vari had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and EJ had 8.
I really had 10. I picked against the Dolphins as a fucking
Stop.
superstitious thing. I've been picking against them the last 4 weeks and they've won all 4 games.
Oh,
So-
right. Yeah, right.
That's why I say I should have had 10.
Well, I do that with Seattle all the time too, or not Seattle, Washington all the time too. So I guess I got 6, or 7. But all right, man. VP, if you would do us the solid
Happy
and
birthday, Steve.
get us up out of here. Thanks, man. I don't know what I just did, but my light got bright. Yeah.
Everybody, we definitely appreciate you guys watching to this week's episode of the CastWorthy podcast. For the folks who joined live and commented, we definitely appreciate you taking the time out of your Sunday morning to listen to us talk about things that are happening throughout the country. For those who will listen once this episode posts, we definitely appreciate you taking that time out as well. Like EJ said a moment ago, just want to send a huge big shout out to my man Steve on his 40th. Wish you many more. Hope that you have a great day here, man. Sucks that we still got COVID going on. I know you would have liked to do a lot more for your 40th than you can right now, but hey, you're still alive though. But yeah, man. Shout out to you on your big day, man. Where we can be found, you can find the podcast on all podcasting platforms. Just search CastWorthy. You can also check out our social media at CastWorthy on Instagram. It's at CastWorthy_podcast. And if you could, go by, give us a like, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, follow, tell a friend and tell a friend. Send Steve a happy birthday message, we definitely would appreciate that as well. And, for those folks who don't get much news in, there is a new variant of COVID out there, the Omicron variant. Still not a lot of data out there on it since it's relatively new. But I said that to basically say COVID is still happening. So, wear your mask when you're going to be in crowded situations, get vaccinated if you haven't been vaccinated. If you have been vaccinated and you only got your first shot, get your second shot. If you already got your second shot, go ahead and get your booster. Do what you got to do to protect yourself, protect your family, and protect the people around you in your household, in your neighborhood, and in your community. With that said, again, we love you guys for taking the time to listen to us, give our thoughts on, the goings on. And we will see you on the next episode of the CastWorthy podcast. We're out. We love you. Peace.